All right, time for a couple New York stories, and the first is about a new book about Governor Andrew Cuomo called The Contender. Fascinating read, by the way. It's got a lot of buzz, and tomorrow night I'm going to play you an extended interview that I had with the author. Here's a quick portion of it.
I have to say, it's sort of childish for Andrew to have butted heads this way with Schneiderman. Maybe he was secretly afraid that Schneiderman would pose the same threat to him that obviously he had become to Eliot Spitzer. If Andrew could write up a Troopergate report and cripple Spitzer politically, maybe Schneiderman could do it to him. But I almost think it was more a sort of just a vindictiveness than a fear of that.
One of the things I got into with the author was, you two guys have covered, he picks fights he doesn't need to, like literally. What did Tom DiNapoli ever do to the guy? But the controller, who 90% of the public can't even name, he beats on him seemingly every month. He's burned bridges. He's got a bad relationship with Gillibrand and Schumer by most accounts here, the Attorney General that we already discussed. I can go up and down the line. I know part of politics is fighting, but he seems to pick fights he doesn't have to. Is there any rhyme or reason to this?
I just want to say is that, there are a lot of stories about the governor picking fights with various people that are not specifically issue related. Like, I understand him butting heads with the mayor. They have a different belief philosophically on different issues. That's fine. But the other stuff really is just rumor and innuendo. There is no real evidence.
There's no rumor.
Do you have
that the
DiNapoli
AG and the controller, that both of them have been kept under his thumb?
Schneiderman says no. The governor says he has a good relationship with Schneiderman. And look, I can only tell you I've heard things, but that doesn't mean it's true. This is still politics. People are still trying to stir the pot here. In the Democratic world, in New York, where everybody's a Democrat in higher office, you have the opportunity to pit people against each other. So, again, I've heard the rumors. Right. I know what's in that book. We don't know anything factually.
Right? It's not my imagination here that there isn't a long line of Democrats that look to him as some great patron here or looking out for their best interests. Am I right or wrong?
Next time I'm in trouble, you're the man. You're the man. We'll put the retainer on the table. Andrew Cuomo is not only disliked, he's hated in most circles. Many of the stories in this new book are completely accurate. I've known this man for close to 30 years. I sat down and I remember he got upset with me because I had to ask him. He had missed a couple of payments for child support. This is going back, and he was upset. But he only knows his way or the highway. The same way as Giuliani. Either you with me or you're against me.
And by the way,
and if you're against him,
I want to know anybody who says he's not effective, okay? Because he's more than competent.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make. Is sometimes some stuff comes with that.
Absolutely, and his way works, right? And all the dysfunction that we labeled Albany, since he's been there, fair is fair. My only point, though, is there are fights he picks that I don't know. For example, him taking his marginalizing the AG right now in Schneiderman, he created a vacuum that who filled? Preet Bharara. And how'd that turn out? I'm just saying some of the fights he picks, I don't know what's in his best interest. Now, on the flip side of this, there was a homecoming this week, and as an unabashed St. John's guy, I don't think they could have done a better job with it. Chris Mullin, formally introduced as the new St. John's head basketball coach yesterday.
Dedication is going to be #1 priority. We're going to be the fittest team in the country, no doubt about that. And we're going to play our tails off, I can guarantee you that.
For folks who don't remember when St. John's actually went to the Final Four, I mean, you had Mullen, you had Berry, you had Mark Jackson, who probably should have started instead of Moses. I can go down the whole list, but he was a city kid, right? And Brooklyn through and through. He still carried it with him. I've seen press conferences before where you got everybody wants this thing to work, and you remember the time when it was a big deal. St. John's, they had back pages, right? There was a time when they mattered, right?
Oh my God, mattered. That's an understatement. This was one of the most exciting teams in New York history, and this was college, and that's not known much in our metropolitan area. It's extremely exciting. Chris Mullin's the right guy for the right time, coming back to New York City. It's all about recruiting. It's not about the X's and O's. It's about getting the kids in, and Chris Mullin everybody knows that he is a legend on the New York City basketball scene, and all we need is our own kids playing at St. John's, and we will be in the Final Four again.
Greatest player in the history of the program, now coaching.
Coach Carnesecca, you know, he's replacing a legend going back to when he was a player, and Coach Carnesecca. But let's be honest, Chris Mullin is so good. He's a white boy that can ball with the brothers. I mean, let's cut through all. Let's cut through all of it.
I was the only other guy around that could do it. But you know what? Better him than me.
Chris Mullin is so good. He can go into the projects and play ball with the brothers.
And that's a true story.
And as a white athlete, that means you're good.
Yeah, and the question is, how much cachet now does it have? Because sure, they can show back the old one.
now.
Except somebody said you bring out the photo of the dream team where you got the Jordan, Ewing, you got all the guys that were on the team there. These some of the clips here with Magic and the rest, and him a part of that team. That might be enough, if not for the recruits, for their parents. And just to remember when New York City used to be not only the world's greatest arena, MSG, but it was the center of basketball. And we've gone so far away from that, the Knicks being the biggest embarrassment in pro sports, seemingly.
What team is that?
Right? And then, I don't know, it was a little blast from the past. And for me, at least, I think they really got it right. And hopefully,
this is great
it's
news.
a good comeback. Okay. Dominic, you got an interview that we're going to be playing tomorrow. You spoke with, again, some of the family that was one of the biggest stories from this past year.
We will talk with the mother and daughter of Eric Garner. Very emotional interviews. They're still very upset almost a year later. Both of them say that their position has changed. They say that they can forgive Officer Pantaleo, but no time soon.
And again, that conversation tomorrow, we'll have it right here from you, in addition to an extended portion of the interview that I had with the author of The Contender. Very interesting things about both Mayor Cuomo and his relationship with his father, his style of governing, some difficult times that he's also endured here, and possibly his future. Again, the title of the book suggested he was running for office in 2016. Don't hold your breath for that. Brad, my friend, thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.
Dominic, I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
We've got headlines straight ahead from the Valley. Please stay with us.